So hello everyone, welcome to this short YouTube call to action this week. Those of you who are new here, my name is Mike Ingledew and I'm all about making you successful with your integrated product support strategies, whether that's identifying the right standards or specifications, identifying the right software for your projects, or just helping you develop your skills and knowledge. Now, actually, this time I'm asking you for your skills and knowledge. So I don't promote it particularly on this channel because multiple reasons, but I am the UK industry rep for the S1000D community. So if industry has a question or they have a concern or a comment around the use of S1000D, specifically from the UK, then I will invariably be asked to answer that question. Or if industry wants to propose something, it will come through me as the industry rep and I will propose it to the steering committee. And this is where I'm coming from today. So I have found myself in the middle of a discussion and a debate, and this comes from a gap in the S1000D specification and where technology is actually developing and emerging at a really rapid pace. So for those of you who understand what a CPF is a change proposal form, which is the formal request that goes into S1000D for consideration of changes to the specification. And I am responsible for two CPFs that are going through right now. One is working with a couple of other key individuals in the market. We have suggested that Chapter 8 of the specification needs to be externalized and turned into sub-specifications. And we are also working with the eSNS capability within S1000D, which is for those of us that are involved in what I have called EPPs, electrical powered platforms. And so all that kind of renewable energy, battery driven kind of platforms. And there's lots of you involved right now in defining your product structures for these new platforms. And of course, S1000D in the SNS section doesn't have support for this emerging technology, these new innovative platforms. And so I have found myself in the middle of a discussion with many of you who are developing these platforms and those of you who are looking to S1000D for guidance on what you should be using for your SNS structures. And this actually all came about 18 months ago, where Vertical Aerospace contacted the S1000D community and said, look, we're planning on using the SNS structures, but these are the gaps. Can you please adopt them in the S1000D specification? Because I'm in the UK and they were in the UK, it got triangulated to me, and I published that I was working on this with industry, and a number of you have been involved and have got in touch with me and said you are also interested in this work. So this work is now turned into a kind of global community of interest, and that's what I want to give you a call to action for today. So I have taken an action from working with a couple of the players in the market to set up an industry focus group from this specific sector in kind of the EPPs, if you like. And we are going to together capture comments and input onto these SNS structures that we are then going to propose to the S1000D steering committee for adoption as a maintained and standard SNS structure going forward. And so this means that you guys are the experts, not me. You guys are the experts in your products and these technologies that are emerging and are being developed. And I've already been educated by some of you on where the gaps are in S1000D. But what I want to do is I want to capture as much input as I can to support the argument from industry to the S1000D steering committee that these structures should be adopted and maintained and managed going forward. These platforms, in the last 12 months, you can see the number of platforms that are being developed and actually being designed by innovators out there. So what do I need from you? So if you are working in the EPP market and you are involved in the design and the definition of your platforms, and you are looking to S1000D to use those SNS structures, I've put a link down below where you can register your interest to join this focus group. And I'm going to host some webinars, and we're going to give some presentations on the work that's been done already, and then invite you to give your comment to the SNS structures that have been developed by a couple of organizations that we are going to then propose to S1000D to use as the managed SNS structures. So if you want to get involved, it really is at this stage only open to those that are looking to S1000D to define your SNS structures, those that have an interest in the definition and the design of your products and platforms. Please only register if you are in that area, because it's not a sales forum, it is a technical forum to discuss what the market needs and then make a proposal to the S1000D steering committee. And on the form as well, you need to register with your correct corporate information and no Gmails, Hotmails, Yahoos and those kind of things. They will just be ignored. It needs to come from a genuine manufacturer's or designer's email address. So if you want to get involved with that work, and for me, it's fascinating. It's great to see that these new innovative platforms are coming to the market, and some of the stuff that's been shared with me is truly fascinating. I think it's really quite interesting. So if you want to get involved with that, link down below, register. The first step will be myself with a couple of the others that are involved at this early stage will give a presentation on where we are. We will invite comment, and then together I will write the CPF, the change proposal form, share it with industry. You guys can have your comment, and then we will propose it as a formal CPF from industry to the steering committee. So hopefully that's interesting. And if you want to get involved, link below. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me messages on LinkedIn, etc. But yeah, I think it will be a fascinating bit of work that we can do together for the betterment of the S1000D specification. I'm Michael Ingledew. Take care and see you on the next one.